On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very exclusive treat. She's a super entrepreneur, best-selling author, personal branding expert, international keynote speaker, and she's the queen of both authenticity and empowerment, just to name a few. She's totally reinvented herself and has evolved into a world-traveling, big-thinking visionary with goddess energy and a superpower for helping others discover their unique essence. She has built her personal brand to gigantic lengths, and she's making a massive contribution to this world, facilitating others to lean into their gifts and passions. She's just a juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific human who exudes leadership and confidence. Please welcome the dynamic, driven, multifaceted, and authentic, the special Jessica Zweig. How you doing, Jess?
I'm about to cry. That was one of the best introductions I've ever heard in my life. Thank you for that. I received that. That was a lot to take in. I'm awesome. I'm happy to be with you today, Craig.
Yeah, I received the compliment from you, and I'm so glad that I did right by you. I always get a kick out of the guest reactions. I put effort into them. But like I always like to say, it's your story. You wrote it. I just said it, Jess.
There's a lot there. That's for sure. Sometimes I forget my story. I'm like, oh, shit. I guess that's me. I've earned that. It's a lot less, sparkly than the beautiful paragraph. It's the net result of a lot of hard work and dedication and tears and learnings and the drill. So to hear that reflected back was really quite powerful.
Hell yeah. And the audience is in for a special treat today, but a little selfishly, I am, because you and I probably could have chatted for an hour before we hit record. There's so much synergy and alignment here. And I can't wait to dive into all this. And for the audience listening, like if you're not familiar with Jess, if you're living under a rock, go do a deep dive, read her book, check out her social media, see all the stuff that she has going on. What I think is most valuable today is we just have an unbelievable conversation. Before we dive in, we're going to get a little weird. You ready for me?
I'm ready. Love weird.
What is this season of life? What is your current definition of success?
Peace. Just peacefulness, feeling a sense of groundedness and fulfillment and joy without needing to try, without needing to hustle, to become in receiving mode versus giving mode, which is totally hard for me. Like I am born to hustle. I've been programmed like all of us. So today I define my success by how peaceful I feel.
Hell yeah. Love that. And I absolutely agree, right? Because years ago, like in a different season of life, maybe success was measured by how much money I made or how good I looked at the gym, stuff like that. But when you become a little more evolved or enlightened, you realize what really matters. And there's something to be said about peace. And what does all the other stuff matter if you don't have peace?
Exactly. That is truly like asking yourself when you wake up in the morning. Yes, you want to be lit up. Yes, you want to be charged and feeling excited about your mission for you to be living out your purpose on this planet. But if it feels heavy or it comes with anxiety or you've got no space for you or you don't catch yourself breathing or you're losing sleep because you've so much going on, like it's been a real journey for me to learn to let go and to trust and to really, like I said, receive. That's been like a true practice for me this year. After all of the things you mentioned, hear that reflected back. Like one of my favorite quotes is, how good can you stand it? Like, what is your capacity to accept how epic your life is? Like that's the real flex. In my opinion, it's like we're also keen on like vulnerability and sharing who we really are, and like that usually includes our shadows and what's wrong with our lives. But what I think is the most vulnerable thing to do is to share how amazing our lives are, how epic it is, how at peace we are with what we've created. Like to me, that's more vulnerable to say out loud than the former.
Bang. That's where we drop the mic, but we're just getting warmed up. I'm going to have to ask you unapologetically to run that back. When you said what the real flex is, can you repeat that one line?
Yeah, the real flex is accepting and admitting and sharing how epic your life is.
I'm laughing because I love you already. And like,
I love you too.
The audience that's listening is like, wow, that sounds like egotistical, but hear this. Like what you're really doing is shining so bright and allowing other people to realize that they too can shine
Correct.
so bright, and that we're all a part of the collective and that we're all one, right?
Correct. Exactly. And we've been living in the matrix. We are in the matrix that's conditioned us to compete, to feel small, to compare, to never enoughness. And that's what's been driving our lives. And we're losing out on so much fulfillment. Like, this is our birthright. This is why we incarnated here, to experience oneness, to experience the infinite possibilities of joy and connection, community, prosperity, success, impact. When we are so caught up in how much our life sucks or how hard it is, we're doing ourselves and other people a disservice. And my book and my brand and everything I talk about is, I talk a lot about the permission slip. Like, be the permission slip by your existence, not just by your doing, but who you are being.
Yeah, this is straight up gold. And the only negative I got going on is we don't have 10 hours to chat. But if my intuition serves me right, it's just the beginning of the friendship. So true. Like, and I forgot who said this. It's in a bunch of movies and stuff, but like, playing small doesn't serve anybody. That's
Yes.
actually, yeah, it's like you play big, you think big and you play big, and then you ignite that fire with other people. And that's what it's all about. Like, it's not,
Yes.
we're all meant to win, and so to speak. And so even if you're not necessarily flashy for the audience that's listening, and we have a few million out, like, at least play big, like step into your height, whatever that looks like, do that. And like, the greatest ROI is that like somebody else listening to this conversation right now breathes a little bit different oxygen, right? Because Jess and I showed up as the truest, authentic version of ourselves, and then they feel like they can too.
That's the truth. I have a tattoo of a key on my heart, right? Like, kind
Hell
of
yeah.
maybe see it. I get
Yep.
asked a lot about this tattoo. So I just like kind of flashed you, but it's all good. So it's right here in the center of my sternum, right? And everyone asks me, like, what is that, a key to your heart? And you mentioned goddess energy. I work a lot with the archetypes of the divine feminine. One of my favorite archetypes of them all is the priestess. And she is all about the divinity, unlocking the divinity in other people. Her element is still water. So she's a mirror, she's a reflector. And so I tattooed this on my heart and my chest, the front of my body. I feel so strongly about it that what I am here to represent is an opportunity to unlock, just by what I can serve, my own existence, my talents, my business, whatever it is. What's the possibility for you? Like, I just want to remind people of the light inside them so that we can all light the fucking planet up and like shift it into more love. Like, that is really why I'm here. So that's how strongly I feel about what you're saying. I tattooed it on my chest.
I love it. And there couldn't be more alignment right here. This is really special. One thing that you mentioned just now with the tattoo is divine feminine. I think that term gets thrown around a little bit, and I'm sure the audience who might not be familiar is curious. What exactly does that mean?
So, wonderful question. So, as I understand the divine feminine, so there's the divine masculine and the divine feminine. We need both to create the planet, to create relationships, to create babies, to create books, to create products. Like, they all have a value, and they're not definitively male or female. Feminine versus masculine are frequencies, they're energies. And the feminine is really the experience of a lot of things. Really, it's the experience of receiving, allowance, compassion, empathy, flow, beauty, stillness, right? And trust. And the masculine is external. It's more about doing, it's more about creation, it's more about giving, it's more about assertiveness, leadership. And I think that we all have masculine and feminine within us. And I'll just speak for myself as a female entrepreneur that's been on the path, started from nothing, built a really successful business in a short amount of time. I've had to be in my masculine just by default. And I'm a double Leo, Cancer moon, like double fire, got a lot of freaking go in me. And it's been beautiful. And I've created a lot of things and touched a lot of people and made a lot of money, but it hasn't always served me. And I think as a woman, like, just frankly, and I think we all can benefit from both frequencies as long as they're in balance. And that's what I think we're up against, is a big imbalance on the planet, frankly. But within ourselves, I'll just speak to my experience as a woman. I can overcompensate by being in my masculine. So having this divine feminine practice has been very healing for me and has allowed me to actually manifest more. And not that it's about manifesting more money, just more the experience of an abundant life that feels authentic and is in alignment. So that's a long-winded answer, and that's my definition. There's a lot of definitions about what that term can mean.
No, that's an awesome answer, straight up. And it was something that I was curious about when I started this journey too. And And the way first of all, I love your answer and I agree with it. But the way I would see it for a while is like you said, like the masculine is more like grinding. And just to be clear for the audience, like there's always a season to grind. We're not saying like eliminate that.
True.
But like when I think of the masculine, I think of like do. And when I think of the feminine, I think of like be, allow, right?
Yes. Yes. And that's what's so ironic. It's like my business is called the Simply Be Agency. My book, which I wrote, is called Be. And I have been in a massive season of doing for a long time and felt like I had to do and almost, was doing unconsciously, grinding unconsciously because of, the rock bottoms I faced before this whole platform and book and business and all of the things. I was broke. I was miserable. I was in so much scarcity and unrest and depressed and not in great, a lot of toxicity in my life, frankly. And
Same.
had to really learn how to get myself out of it by empowering myself, which is very actionable and masculine in a sense. And I kind of caught myself in the doing pattern and forgot that my value was in my beingness. So I say often that the irony is, in a way, is that I name my business Simply Be, and my book is called Be. And yet that's a lesson that I still have to learn is how to actually do that, because I'm always in go, 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 hustle, grind
Yeah.
mode. Not always, but a lot.
This is so relatable to me. And when you were rock bottom, because I was a couple years ago too, before I pivoted and reinvented myself, you said broke. Did you mean financially or spiritually, or maybe both?
Oh my gosh, both, all of the above. Yeah. I literally, I start my book this way. And yeah, I mean, it's a story that I share very publicly. I wrote about this in my book, but I went broke at 33 and I had to ask my parents to help me pay my phone bill because I couldn't afford anything. Like I had no money in any of my accounts and they were going to shut off my phone. And I had to drive to my parents' house in the suburbs of Chicago at 33 years old to ask my parents to give me $200 so I could pay AT&T. And that was really the rock bottom that I was like, I gotta fucking change my life and no one is gonna save me. And it wasn't necessarily about learning how to earn money. It was about learning that I had worth with money or without money. Like I was worthy of what I wanted to feel. And so that was really the pivot point.
Yeah, this is really deep, really special. And a lot of it hits home to me because I was in a similar situation where I just need to reinvent myself on all levels, financially, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and so forth. And for the audience listening, like everybody's going through something different. But if you are at rock bottom, it's actually a beautiful place to be because it's an opportunity to rebuild a little bit differently, right?
Yes. Well, wherever there's death, there's rebirth, and we're always in a cycle. And it's a matter of how you look at it. And you have to embrace death and change and do the hard work and look at your shadow. And there's so much talk today about shadow work. And really, what I how I look at it is like learning how to bring love and light and acceptance and compassion towards yourself and then make moves to evolve, whether for me that looked like hiring a therapist, a coach, doing some journaling, traveling, to retreats, hiring, people like you, like the spiritual path, plant medicines, like you name it, I've done it. And that is an ever evolving journey. I still am on that journey to
Same.
know myself. It's constant rebirth, constant death. It's the cycle and rhythms of life. And when we really are willing to, I mean, it's not even sometimes a matter of being willing. Sometimes life just doesn't allow you to go any other direction than like down so you can go up. I'm sure at rock bottom or whenever you had your spiritual, financial, mental, whatever crisis, you had no other option to change but to change your life. And that's, kind of what I think we sign up for in the human experience, regardless of how, much we try to avoid it.
Yeah.
So I'm here for that. That is the journey. Like that right there is what I am on this, rock spinning through the galaxy to learn.
This is awesome, right? Because there's always a choice, choose your heart. Like I was at such a broken place that staying in there was obviously a choice. People always ask me, like, how'd you leave a stable job on Wall Street to start CLS? You're an introvert, you're shy, you had 300 Instagram followers. Because when I finally put myself in that frequency to get clarity in what I actually love and what I have to be good at, which is communicating, I realized that that might be tough. There's no guarantee it'll work out. I'm definitely going to fall on my ass a couple of times, but I'll pick myself back up. But the scariest thing, something that I actually began to associate with death, was that when the lockdown was over, going back to that job and waking up every day and like living for the weekends and being miserable. Like to me, that was the toughest thing of all, straight up.
Yeah. You just mentioned the word frequency, which I love because it's not a, I think a term a lot of people consider. It's like what you're talking about is alignment, right? That's how I see it. It's not a mental choice. You know, it's not an action. It's how you align. It's the feeling in your heart, your soul, when you tune in, when you sit with yourself. Like I just had a talk, Marianne Williamson. Do you know who she is? She's like, she ran for president. She wrote the book Return to Love.
I know the
And
name.
she, yeah, she's like an OG kind of thought leader in spiritual space. And she said, one of the most difficult, what would change the world is man's ability to sit in a room with himself, by himself in stillness for a time. Like we just don't sit with ourselves today. And when we do, yeah, a lot of things are going to come up that feel uncomfortable, but so are a lot of things that feel like truth, if only we're willing to sit and listen. And then we tap into that frequency that is authentic to us. And when we move through the world from that place, that's when you become a magnet. That's when you start to manifest your tribe, your opportunities, your people, your audience, your doors, your revenue, your partner, you know? And we just need to drop in. We need to be more than we do.
Yeah, what you're describing is what I think of it as the term become available, right? For
Yeah.
all the abundance out there. I was never
Yeah.
available straight up until the last couple of years.
It's amazing what you've created in just such a short amount of time. Like clearly you were destined and you are on the right frequency, Craig, in alignment, or otherwise all of this stuff wouldn't have manifested. My book begins with the quote, "Do not be surprised how fast the universe will respond once you've decided."
I
That that
saw
that
you
proves
quote
itself
that.
to me every freaking day. It's a
Quantum leap.
decision,
Quantum leap.
quantum leap, full body, mind, spirit, soul decision,
Yeah.
and it happens.
So the question that I get most, and I want to ask you this, I'm curious. A lot of people want to do something like me and you were doing, or try something different, but they're still holding on to either a 9 to 5 or a partner that's not right for them or something. And my thought process is if you want to allocate all your energy to doing something special and be available, you have to let go of the energy that's holding you back. I know that's easier said than done for some people that need to pay the bills or whatever the case would be. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh gosh, I have so much to say about that. So I'm a big quote girl. One of my favorite quotes is leap and the net will catch you. Okay. That sounds like really, all right, in theory, I get that, but that's really hard to do. You'll only know the power of it until you do it. I was, just a quick sort of Cliff's notes. I ran my first business for 7 years. It was an online magazine, majorly critical of success, put me on the map, learned all my hard skills as an entrepreneur. It's also the business that made me go broke. Then I, tapped into my spiritual space, but then I also had to pay my bills. So I got a corporate job, worked there for 2 years, fat salary, 6 figures plus bonus, corporate credit card, full benefits. I hated it. And I was like, I need to go start another business. Like I am not built to work in this space. I am an entrepreneur at my core. I had not a lot of money in savings. My husband had just lost his job. We were like fighting like crazy because I was like, I can't do this. And he was like, you're all we've got. You can't quit this job. And I looked at him and I was like, give me 2 months and I will have enough money to pay my half of the rent, which was $4,000 a month at the time. We were living in a big condo in Chicago. And I was like, I'll make enough money to cover $2,000 plus hopefully a little extra for groceries. Like that was a commitment to him. I quit that job, leapt, knew in my soul the net would catch me. And 18 months later, I had a 7-figure business, literally. And, became the breadwinner of our family when he was the one that was taking care of me because he was, and then he lost his job. And it was a ton of scarcity in my family. And I just really want to point back to that moment because I knew in my fucking soul that I could do it. And I was thinking too small, but I was like, at least I believed in myself. And when I took that leap, it happened so fast. Like the money, the revenue, the opportunities, the team, the speaking engagements, the book deal, like it all happened so fast. So that's my advice. Like leap and the net will catch you. You just have to believe that it will catch you. That's the hard part, but
My
it's
goodness.
powerful.
I couldn't say it better myself. That's awesome. And for everyone that always asks me that question, after we drop this episode, I'm going to revert back to that, what you just said at the exact time frame, because that's so true, right? Leap and the net will catch you. And then quantum leaps, right? Then you're available. The opportunities present themselves and so forth. Beautifully said. So true.
Yeah.
All
I
you
think
really
that
need
that's,
is, yeah, hell yeah, 20 seconds of courage. Take that leap. And then the seeds
yes.
part.
Yes. And look for the signs. Like, I want to say that is a really powerful tool, at least for me. Like, I love feathers. Okay. I had a long time mentor who actually passed away years ago. And she told me that whenever you see a feather, it's a sign that you're following your destiny and your angels are protecting you. Okay. So I was like, cool, feathers. And I started seeing them. And it was the day that I quit that corporate job. I was living in Dallas at the time. I was staying in an Airbnb. I called my boss. I gave her the news. I hung up. I'm like, there's a wine bar across the street. I'm going to go get a glass of champagne at the bar and toast to myself and my new beginning. I hung the phone, walked down the steps onto the sidewalk, and I'm not lying. This is a true story. It's like why I have tattoos of feathers all over my body now. There was a swirl of white feathers, a swirl of white feathers like descending in the air on that sidewalk. And that was like the ultimate sign that I had just chosen myself. And I see feathers literally everywhere. And I typically see them in moments of like pivots or like stress or strife or worry, or, when I don't really know how it's going to feel or be, like they are my guiding point. So that's a little woo maybe, but like look for signs. Like to me, I think that's the quantum realities are always talking to us as long as we are available, to use your word, to pay attention.
Bang. This is awesome. I can't stop smiling straight up. I love all this and the signs 100%. Definitely. I'd be doing the audience a disservice if I didn't bring this up. It's something I talk about all the time because it was this mentality on how I was able to build what we've done in a relatively short amount of time is creating a personal brand. You're the queen of that. You've done it such a fantastic job of it. It's 2022 for everybody listening. Like this is the time, even if you never thought of yourself as a brand, if you're not an entrepreneur specifically, it's time to start considering it. Why was that so important to you to make you start that?
So, such a great question. So, I left my magazine, as I said, and after 7 years, and even though it was a financial disaster, it was critically successful. And I thought the magazine was my life. Like I thought that was that was the brand. And then when I quit the magazine, I had no business strategy, website, product, services. I just had me, and I knew I wanted to consult. It was the way I was going to make a little bit of money. One of those companies was that corporate job that ended up hiring me. But the point is, I left that magazine, launched this new business that wasn't a business by virtue of an email, and a Facebook post, and I got more business overnight than I had ever made in my life at that point. And I was like, wow, my magazine isn't the brand. I'm the brand. People do business with people. And this
Right.
is an asset that I had been kind of unconscious building. What if I got really intentional and clear? And so I got swept up in that corporate job, but I always knew I wanted to go off and do my own thing again. And then I quit to start Simply Be Agency, and I went deep on personal branding as a service. And this was in 2017, which was even more sort of novel at the time. And it was no one else was really doing it. And I sort of cornered this white space of really identifying a personal brand as an asset for you to market yourself, to sell yourself, drive business online in a way that I don't think any other brand can do as effectively as a human, because people, again, are more intrigued by people using the expertise and sauce I had figured out on social media and PR and digital and just that world in general. But also because I had been through a dark night of the soul myself, I was like, we got to show up real. We got to be unapologetically authentic online today if we really want to connect with our right people. And so I created Simply Be on this premise of the intersection of showing up in your full boss expertise power, but your humanity. Because I don't care how much money you make or what your job title is, we're all just people. And the more willing you are to show up in your full truth, the more magnetic you become, the more impactful you become, the more you can change people's lives. Like what you said about if someone just listens to this episode today, takes a nugget and it helps them, like you and I have done our jobs, Craig. We didn't make any money today, but we have done our job. And so that's really the philosophy we have at Simply Be, and it's really resonated. And so I think personal branding is like the only asset business tool you'll ever need, because life's going to change, but your job's going to change. You'll grow a business, sell a business, quit a job, get a new job, but you're always going to be you. And that is your most precious asset. So you should invest in it.
Bang. Oh my goodness, this is great. And so true. Like In the beginning, I wasn't sure like how vulnerable I should be when I was building a community and so forth. And then once upon a time when I just said fuck it, and I would like put my cards on the table and just showcase my weird, strange self, and really be clear, I am very weird. Right then and there, like it was such a deeper connection with the audience. Like they just started gravitating towards it, made it more relatable and so forth. And I think that's so big too. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to the show and so forth, and we're talking about personal branding. How important is it in regards to personal branding, your messaging?
Oh my gosh, it's everything. The messaging is the brand. So I like to say that the brand is the art and the strategy is the science, right? And you can't get to the science and know where you're going to go and how you're going to get there unless you know what you're representing, right? The branding is actually my favorite part, and it's our mastery at Simply Be. And so this is what I say in my book. I say it everywhere. The name of the game used to be content. Like content is king, right? You've heard that marketing adage before, like everyone's heard that. Well, we live in 2022, to your point, where it is so noisy. Like it like social media can be like a toilet. You know what I mean? There's so much garbage, and like it's true. Like it's a
It is
beautiful
true.
thing. I love social. It's changed my life. It's how I have so many beautiful connections around the world, and it's grown my
Same.
business. But like it's a noisy place filled with a lot of junk. And we have to remember today, this is my opinion, that content is no longer king. Clarity is king. That consistency, that razor sharp, consistent, rock solid, constant message that you would just have to beat over people's heads with love and service, right? Like that's how it works, to pierce through all of that noise. And so that's the core of the methodology, Simply Be. We've trademarked it. It's really about centering in on the core story of the brand. And we give it depth. It's not one noted. That's also part of the sauce. But to stay the course, to stick to your script, to be about it, as Gary Vaynerchuk said once, which I loved. And it's really the difference in my view of people who stand out online and those that don't. It's not the strategy as much as it is the brand. Everything is brands. Brand is how we connect emotionally. Think about all the best brands, like that aren't people. You think of BMW versus Hyundai. You feel something different, right? Coca-Cola versus Pepsi, like there's feelings attached to it. Like we have the benefit. We're people. Pepsi's not a person. The Coke doesn't have an emotion. We have emotions. We get to resonate on the internet in a way that nothing else does. And so we've got to clarify that. We can't be about everything, feel all feelings, say all the things we want. You've got to really narrow in. And that's how you pierce through. And you do that with depth and service and value, and you will win.
This is awesome. We got to bring it back for a sequel. I agree with every single thing that you said, and also specifically like creating that feeling, that
Yeah.
personal connection. That's what it's all about. And do my homework on you, because obviously two things. Number one, I'm a fan, and I want to show this conversation the respect it deserves. In regards to what you're talking about right now, you also talk about something that I preach too, is committing to the long game, right?
Yes, that's it. That's it. If you look at, I say this in my book, I say it all the time, go Google, I don't know, Mark Cuban, Gabby Bernstein, Tony Robbins, and go super deep on their history, like where they were 20 years ago, literally 20 years ago. They didn't have as big of an audience. They had crappier fonts and logos. Their photography style wasn't that hot. There was not a lot of people in the audiences of their events. Like that's just it's the long game. It compounds over time, like, investments do. You've got to invest in yourself. Like I said, you're your most precious asset. And the wealthiest people in the world that have built true wealth, true reach, haven't done it in a vacuum overnight. They've stayed the course. And the long game, that consistency is the difference between, I think, the hacks, with all due respect, to the true, legitimate experts who truly shift the world, the thought leaders.
Yeah, this is great stuff. So many places we can take this conversation. Obviously, we've been talking about your book a little bit, and for the audience listening, go buy it immediately. It's awesome. I can't wait to read it myself. It's funny because people have been asking me since I started CLS, like, when are you gonna write the book? When are you gonna write the book? And I have a whiteboard, a vision board, and it was on there, but I wasn't energetically attached to the book just yet. And then out of nowhere, this is probably the first time publicly I'm talking about this. A big book deal came to fruition with the right people, and now I'm really jazzed about it, and I'm moving forward with it. Yeah, hell yeah, it feels good to
So
even say that
exciting.
out loud. But I'm curious, like, how is it with you when you, is it something that you always wanted to do, or was it like the right
Yeah.
situation? How'd you give birth to your book?
Yeah, such a good question. I love this. And I'm sure a lot of people listening want to write a book too. And I would say this, like, it's a game changer, like your book, a book changes your life. I mean, it doesn't. You still wake up, you're still you still got your dogs, your house, your like, but like it opened up the world. Like I put me on the map, it changed my business, exploded my business, was a true vehicle and tool to get me in spaces and places and stages that I would never have gotten. Like a book is amazing. And so, yeah, I'm a writer at heart. I've always dreamed about it in the back of my mind. I got to give big shout outs to a dear friend of mine, a soul sister who's a big author herself. And she was like, you need to write a book. She really pushed me. And I was like, do I want to write a memoir? She's like, Jessica, no one knows you yet. No one's going to care. Like, I remember like her saying that. She's like, what can you write 50,000 words about? And I was like, well, personal branding. Like I can talk about this space. I know what I'm doing and I've created my own method. So ended up writing the proposal. I just went for it. That really took a year because I was like, a book proposal is like a business plan for your book. And typically, if you go the route of a traditional publisher to get a lit agent, you need a proposal. So the proposal, like marketing pieces, I aced. I was like, I can write my audience, my comp titles, and my marketing plan. But when it came to the what of my book, that took me a minute. That structurally to wrap my brain around, that was challenge. All this to say, wrote a killer book proposal, got an agent, my top agent within a week. Again, don't be surprised how fast the universe will respond once you've decided.
That's right.
And my book went to auction and I got 4 offers from HarperCollins, McGraw-Hill, Macmillan, and Ben Bella, which was a boutique. So 3 out of the 5 big houses made me offers. And I ended up going with Macmillan Sounds True, which is the house that's published like Eckhart Tolle, Brene Brown, Marianne Williamson, Tara Brach, like all the great spiritual sort of cross section of business and spiritual. It was a very large advance. And I was like, let's ride. And so, it came to me in a very fast way. And it was, I think the best part of writing my book or getting a book deal was writing of the book. Like it's the most creative process. It really flows through you. At least it did for me. And I will say this from my soul. Like I wrote that book, every word in service of the reader. Like I poured into that eventual reader's soul from mine. Like it was such a joy to write that book. And I think people can really feel that when they read it. And so I go for it. If you have a dream, if you want to write a book, like there's lots of ways you can do it. I went the traditional route. Here's a hot tip. If you want to go the traditional route and you want to get a lit agent, pick up all the books of authors that you love and admire. Pick up like 5 to 10. Go into the acknowledgments. Everybody thanks their agent in the acknowledgments. And if you want to be represented by a similar lit agent of those you admire in your space, go into the acknowledgments, then go Google them. And that's how you find their websites and submit your query letters and get yourself an agent. It's kind of it's a hack, but it worked.
That's
A lot
awesome.
of people do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a 6 or 7 figure idea on the house right there. And you know, it's funny, like so many people will hear this, but very few will take action. But that strategy alone is a good way just to get some insight in regards to how to start the process straight up. And
Yeah.
congratulations on the book. It's an instant classic. And I can imagine how many doors that opens. And to be honest with you, I can't wait for the next one. I'm sure you're thinking
I'm
about it. Of
working on the next one right now.
course you are. Yeah, hell yeah. I saw you
Excited.
write somewhere, I'm not sure if it was your quote, but all the quotes that you post are in alignment with me also. Happy is the new rich.
Yes, indeed.
So cool.
Happy is the rich. Well, when you ask me, what's my definition of success? It's peace, like peace is what makes me happy. Like I used to feel like I had to be everywhere, do all the things and,
Same.
have all the connections. And like, even though it looks really big and sparkly online, like most of my nights I'm home in my house with my dogs and my husband, I'm chilling, watching a show. Like that's to me, when I wake up in the morning, do I feel a sense of dread or anxiety or worry? And I don't. Like I wake up feeling peaceful, excited for my day. Like so happy is the new rich. Like if you've had you've had a lot of financial success, Craig, I take it, and you were miserable. So like you get that.
Yeah, I do. 100%. And also like for the audience listening, yes, you can 100% create a hybrid of making an impact and making a lucrative living. It's not one or the
Yes.
other.
Not at all. No. In fact, the more you align into your happiness and joy and purpose, the more is available to you, the more money when I got my inner journey right, like the world reflected that to me back, in a lot of ways and especially financially.
Is that a real word, inner journey?
I say it all the time. In fact, people ask me like, what's personal branding all about? I'm like, it's an inside job. It's the
That's
inner
awesome.
work.
Yeah,
It's true.
this is great. And we'll end up playing with these final two nuggets. Going back for a second, in regards to the brand's messaging and so forth, three
Yeah.
things that you love to talk about are what, how, and execution. Can you dive in on that a little bit?
Absolutely, sure. So the what, like I said, is the brand, right? The art. Like, what are you saying? What do you want to be known for? What do you want people to think of when they hear your name? That's branding. What do you want them to feel? How is how you get that message out into the world, the strategy, the tactics, the thought, the content, the podcast, the social, the website, the speaking engagements, the email campaign, right? The products, the services, like how you do it is your strategy that you typically at Simply Be, at least how we work, we build that strategy. That's a roadmap. We literally create 12-month marketing strategies that take us from point A to Z based on what the client needs to achieve and what success looks like for them. We build KPIs and milestones against those goals to ensure we get there. That's the how we do it, right? So the what's the brand, the how is the strategy, and then you got to execute it. And that's truly like the difference for, in my view, of people who actually like truly win or truly don't. Like you got to show the F up every day and do the work. And that's time and that's effort. And sometimes you feel like you're not getting anywhere and you're spinning in circles and you just got to keep going. And that's like execution is like truly where people fall short more than anything. And so we obviously do it all for our clients because our clients are busy. It's why we have a business. But I would highly encourage everyone who's thinking about building a personal brand and doing it right to consider all three of those steps.
Yeah, that's gripping. And straight up, like so many people come to me like, Craig, I want to do what you're doing right now. I'm like, that's fine, but do you want to do what I did? And what I did,
Yeah.
I marry the
Good.
process, divorce the outcome, right? But I'm committed. Like there were days when I didn't feel like showing up. Of
Of
course,
course.
right? And as an entrepreneur, it's not like this, as we know, it's more like, and I'm moving my hands up and down like a roller coaster.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you gotta show up, especially on the days when you don't feel like it. And from interviewing some of the world's biggest, like most successful people, from celebrities, business moguls, all that, like the one common trait that I see that they all say is they show up even when they don't feel like it. And that's just a matter of effort, or like the difference between being interested and being committed. And I think that goes a really long way. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, tenacity is what you're talking about. Resilience.
Ooh,
Yeah.
tenacity, right?
Tenacity. And, I think that certain people are born with it, but I also think you can learn it. And I think when life pushes you and really tests you, you find a new layer of drive within yourself. And it's like, how badly do you want it? You're the one that's going to look at yourself in the mirror every day. You're the one that's going to hit your own head on your own pillow every night. Like it's you and you, and you got to show up for you and trust. Like I love marry the process, divorce the outcome. Like
Right.
brilliant for the record. And a lot of people, like we let the matrix get in the way. We let the bad day get in the way. We let, someone's criticism or troll get in the way. We let the client that says no get in the way. It's like you just got to keep showing up, being you, being in service, trusting that people are going to resonate if you're coming from love and your gifts and you're really doing it for all the right reasons. It's like just keep doing it.
Hell yeah. What an awesome, thought provoking conversation. Another thing that I get asked all the time, because I talk about all the time, is your tribe, right? And like your sphere of
Yeah.
influence and making sure you're around the right frequencies. Everybody
Yes.
always says to me, like, well, how do you let go of people that are close to you or have been in your life for a long time? And to be honest with you, my fiance is going through a little something like this right now. And like I like to say, it's like, you're not necessarily outgrowing people because they have a choice to grow with you. But if they're not evolving to the level that you are, nobody should have a hall pass, like to be there forever. If they're not like making some sort of impact to you, then
Yes.
you have to choose. And I know it could be a tough choice, but I'm curious, how do you handle situations like that?
Oh my gosh, I have so much to say about this. This is so good. I mean, how I've handled it in the past, I mean, it's painful, it's hard to let people go or shed people or, one of
Shed.
my, favorite expressions is like vibe up or vibe out. And like, your vibe will attract your tribe. We're just talking about vibration. We're all energy. And if we're doing our work, our energy is going to shift. It's going to expand. We are going to expand our frequency. And not everybody can ride with this new version of ourselves. And that's a really hard pill to swallow, but that's okay. Like one of my favorite philosophies is like reason, season, lifetime. Like people come into our lives for a reason. Some people come into our lives for a season, and some are meant to stay for life. And if you're lucky, you maybe get like 2 or 3 that stay for life. Like that's a blessing. And so know that those people that came in for that season were there to teach you something. And if they're not in alignment, if it's heavy or they're not clapping for you, or it just doesn't stimulate, it doesn't have to be drama. It doesn't have, sometimes it doesn't even have to be like a word. Like a lot of my relationships shifted in the pandemic, frankly, and I'm
Same.
not as close as certain people. Exactly. And there was no hard feelings. There was nothing like that needed to even be said. It just, the energy shifted and I started to attract new people because I was in a different place. And that's a beautiful thing. And every relationship is this like mosaic of, the masterpiece of our lives. And we need people to inform who we become. And so there's nothing bad actually happening when we start to shed. It's all in the highest service, I think, of everyone involved. And you just have to trust that.
Yeah, what a good way to articulate it, right? Like it's not almost like it's something personal. Like you're evolving, you're in a different frequency, and you're available for people similar to the frequency that you're becoming, and you
Correct.
just don't vibe so much with some of the other people. And again, it's not like go to hell. It's just like we're just drifting a little bit. We're going in different directions, and that's okay. Wish you the best too.
Yes. And the same goes to this conversation of authenticity, right? Which I have all the time. So when you're being authentic and truly being yourself, your frequency is going to shift, right? Your vibration expands. And we can like magnetize people in the best way. Like this is on a more of a macro scale, like people who are really afraid to truly be themselves because they're going to get rejected or people are going to unfollow them or whatever. It's like, that's a good thing. Like if you're starting to really step into the truth of who you are, you're going to magnetize and you're going to repel at the same time. And like, those aren't your people anyway. So like I was talking to a famous housewife the other day and we're like friends. And she was like, what did she say? It was so refreshing. She's like, people love me. Like the people who love me love me. There's a lot of people who hate me, but I don't think about them. But the people who love me, like love me. And the way she said it, I was like, that's it. Like know who your people are, important to them. And the people who don't get you or like you or don't understand, it's like not worth your time.
Yeah.
Not worth your time on a macro scale. When we're dealing in personal relationships, it can be a little harder, obviously.
Understood. But it acts as like a true authentic filter, right? Like why would you even want people in your orbit that aren't on your vibe?
Exactly. That brings your energy down. And this is what I was also going to say. It's like we're all just energy. That's quantum mechanics. That's quantum science. Like attracts like. So the more you are of yourself, the more you're going to attract people who reflect that same frequency, meet your values, meet your preferences, meet your joy. Like it's a beautiful thing when we start to really live in an authentic place.
100%. And to me, like when I started CLS and I was kind of being a little selfish with my time, but I was also evolving, I ended up finding my fiance, or she found me.
Right.
Yeah, but it was like I was a vibrational match, right?
Correct.
And like I was as authentic as I've ever been. And it just worked out that way. And I think the message there for anybody is be yourself, and the right people will attract and the wrong people won't. And that's okay.
And that's okay. And that's why we met. And I thought about that too, as you were saying your fiance, but that you had a fiance. I was like, he wouldn't have been able to have attract that a couple years ago. Like she came into your life at this time. I don't know anything about her, but I just got that download. I was like, he met her at this version of himself, and I bet she's amazing. That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Thank you for saying that. And it's so true. Like a couple of years back, before I met her, I had gotten out of a bit of a toxic relationship. And I needed to work on myself to be
Yeah.
available for the right partner, just
Yeah.
as we all do. Right. And for a lot of people out there that are like single and like looking for the right one, first of all, there's nothing wrong with being single. I would rather be single
Be
than
single for as long as possible. That's one of my biggest advice. When young women ask me advice about like life, I'm always like, stay single for as long as you possibly can, because that's going to be the time of your life, and you're going to learn to like love yourself, date yourself, know yourself in the context of just what's for you. And if you really want a relationship and a ring on your finger, you get swept up in time, but like don't rush that. Be
Yeah.
with yourself. Learn to sit with the loneliness. Learn to sit with the uncomfortableness. It'll teach you a lot of things.
Hell yeah. And what I was going to say is being single is significantly better than settling. And as you
Yeah,
just said, like when you work on yourself, like being in those feelings, eventually you'll find out who you really are. And then
correct.
you'll attract that right person for who you really are.
Amen. The truest thing.
Yeah, this was too much fun. One final question, very short answer, because I saw you post about this and I thought it was really sexy. I wanted to ask you the difference between a boss and a leader.
Mm. Oh my gosh, I have
Going
so
out
much
all
to
the
say
Jess
about
hits
this.
today.
Well, I can't take credit for this quote, but Simon Sinek said, "A boss has the title, a leader has the people." And I think that a boss takes the first cut, and a leader takes the first hit. I say that. So it's like people think of a boss as, the one holding the power, the status, the influence. A leader is about the impact, the inspiration, the vision, creating something bigger for people to get up in the morning for than just a paycheck. And that includes you. And I think that we all have leadership inside of us. I think we all have the ability to influence and impact, our corner of the world. And I think leadership is the biggest personal development school of them all. It really will test you. And a boss can walk through life completely unconscious of their impact and not ever do any work on themselves. So, and there's people out there that could be characterized as that. So I think striving to be a leader, whether you have a boss title, is really the game. And I think leadership is a privilege. I think it is like one of the greatest honors that I hold to lead a team. I have 25 employees
Nice.
and they don't, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. They look to me when I enter the room, whether I want to or not, can be a lot to carry sometimes. The way that I sit, the way that I stand, the way that I breathe, the way that I engage matters. And so to come from a place of presence and connection and authenticity and valuing the people who work for you, to me that's really what it's about. It's like living in presence with your team and ensuring that they have something bigger to believe in, and that is on you. And when the shit hits the fan, you're at the tip of the spear, man. Like I said, leaders take the first hit. They'll take the first cut. If you're not doing as well as you need to that month on payroll, like that's what bosses, that's what leaders do. It's so hard and it's so beautiful. It stretched me in ways that I never ever signed up for. And I couldn't imagine it any other way. So a leader has the people, but the boss is the one with the title, and I'd rather have the people.
You're such a beautiful soul. I have a dopamine hit from this conversation. Literally, like, of course, I want to get you on and support your message and talk about personal branding, but there was really no agenda, just to connect and have an unbelievable conversation and form a friendship.
Yes.
This was really special. The podcast is exploding. I say very humbly, we have a few million now. What's the best way for the community to support you, Jess?
You're so sweet. Well, come over to my podcast, Simply Be Podcast, the Simply Be Podcast. We talk about authenticity, entrepreneurship, leadership, spirituality, branding, all of the things. You can find me on Instagram. I'm at Jessica Zweig. You can go to simplybeagency.com to learn about the business of Simply Be and what we do for clients. You can buy my book, Be, on Amazon, support your local bookstores, Barnes and Noble, Target, wherever books are sold, and come say hi. I spend a lot of time on the gram. So shoot me a DM, say hello. I always love to hear from communities like Craig's, and just, this is such a beautiful gift you've given me to share me with your people. And so I'd love to hear from you, and don't be a stranger.
Yeah, and
So
her
I'm
social
everywhere.
is awesome, guys. Her content is great. If you're ever looking for a guest, I'd love to support her in your
Oh
shows.
my God, done. Let's talk about it. I got a feeling and vibe from your website and your social. I'm like, he's really fucking cool. And I was really excited about this today. But this was next level and we're friends. So we'll definitely get you on my show. 1000%. Let's do it this year.
Hell yeah, done and done. Hang out for a second because I want to talk to you after. But I want you to know you are the definition of perspective, reinvention, and growth from taking your life experience, spreading positivity, light, deep, authentic truths. You're a true visionary role model and beacon of hope for anybody coming up to their big goals and aspirations. I can personally guarantee your best yet to come, Jess. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless nuggets today.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor and so much fun.
That was really special.
It was. I didn't know what to expect. You're an amazing interviewer. I can see exactly why your content's blown up. You've got a gift, my friend. You get this space. You're wonderful. You're
Thank you.
wonderful, like super authentic, super engaging, like really real. And I can see why your content shines. Like I'm inspired, truly.
Thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate it. I love
True.
to build the friendship. What's the best way to stay connected?
Where are you based?
I'm in Manhattan in the Big Apple. You can't tell by
Well,
the
maybe,
accent?
I mean, I thought East Coast, but I was like, where in the East, like Jersey, sorry, New York, like definitely East Coast. Where in Manhattan are you?